We started doing these about 3.5 years ago, and when we started doing this, one of the first things my wife and I did is put together sort of a wish list of people that we thought would be great to get here. And once we got through the obvious, like Eric Clapton and Bob Dylan, and we tried them, and they elected not to join us. But Pierce was right up there with him, and Pierce was one of the first shows that we did when we started back about 3.5 years ago. We've had him twice since then. This is the third time, but we're just really blessed to have Pierce join us. Pierce is one of the most, I think, introspective, thoughtful, moving songwriters out there, and just beautiful music. So please help me welcome Pierce Pettis.
Hey, oh, sorry. Oh, I'm here. Okay. It's great to be back at John Luann's house. It's beautiful here. You guys hear this okay? I was looking at this Home on the Range action out here. It's really nice. It reminds me of a Mark Hurd song. Mark fell in love with the West. He was from Georgia, but he took one look, and that was all it took, and he never went home to Georgia. And he lived in a place that backs up against the desert out in California. And this is a song he wrote about the desert. Pray for the foothills, home to the drone of power lines and rock doves. Mountains gray as velvet, field for dots of yucca and ocarina. Face in the sky as the day burns away as a desert in morning. Sheltering the dead stones, cradle of the lost bones, home of eternal comings and goings, blinking away the sunrise, listening to the wind blow. Angels with dirty faces face another day in limbo, beckoning fire from heaven. Everything seems so stone cold, beating the drums of change. Another day in limbo. Pray for the foothills, goat herds and windmills and satellite dishes. Oh, and petroglyph talkers meet iron-willed walkers who grant them no wishes. Shaking a fist at the air seems to bring on a blackening sky. In the cracking of embers, old men remember walking in beauty in the dawn of their lives, blinking away the sunrise, listening to the wind blow. Angels with dirty faces face another day in limbo, beckoning fire from heaven. Everything seems so stone cold, beating the drums of change. Another day in limbo. Pray for the foothills, the iron horse with 4 wheels, bucks a drunken rider. Oh, and the pawns of the pawn kings, the corn silk of heartstrings lies tattered and blighted. Oh, they sing in the sand, for the Son of Man is salt fire from water. Oh, faith like a kernel rising in thermals, hope springs eternal once in a while, flicking away the the sunrise, listening to the wind blow. Angels with dirty faces face another day in limbo. Beckoning fire from heaven, everything seems so stone cold. Beating the drums of change, another day in limbo. Yeah. Another day in limbo. You guys hear my guitar all right? There's no need to hide what's going on. Your story's all over town. It's alright if everything is all wrong. Come on down to the crying ground. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This dark skies feels like rain. Why, look at all those thunder clouds. Bet that dam is just about to break. Come on down to the crying ground. Hey, down to the crying ground. It's where your tears are holy water rolling down your face. Ain't no disgrace. Come on down to the crying ground. I know you'd love to steal away where you will never be found. Sometimes everybody's gotta feel this way. Come on down to the crying ground. Hey, down to the crying ground. Let your tears be holy water rolling down your face. Ain't no disgrace. Come on down to the crying ground. No need to tell me what you're going through. Sister, I'll be right where you are now. You know exactly what you need to do. Come on down, 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 down. Come on down, 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 down. Come on down, 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 down. We are talking holy water rolling down your face. Ain't no disgrace. Come on down to the crying ground. Down to the crying ground. Come on down to the crying ground. Come on down, oh, to the crying ground. Thank you. This is a little song Gordon and I wrote a few years ago. So I'd like to do you a medley of my hit song, if I could. I don't get to claim all of it because we co-wrote it. This is like my half, you know. Gordon's over sleeping off his half somewhere on the other side of town, apparently. But at any rate, but man, this was a big deal for me. I mean, you know, I never had a real hit song. I'd had hits. Well, I shouldn't say that. I had songs covered by people, and they were hits to me, you know. But this one, you know, this was the one where we went from paying rent to paying mortgage overnight. You know? That was great, man. I did a show with Steve Gillette like last week, and Steve had a song covered by Garth too, and we both had this thing where, you know, Garth paid for our houses, you know, down payment anyway. That's a unique bond, really, between songwriters. But at any rate, so yeah, I mean, my wife and I started with nothing, and now we owe just thousands of dollars. So we managed that so well. So at any rate, this is called "You Move Me." Here's how life seems to me. Life is like therapy. It's really expensive with no guarantees. And as I lay on the couch with my heart hanging out, I was frozen in fear like a rock in the ground. Oh, you move me. You give me courage I did not know I had. Oh, you move me. And I can't go with you and stay where I am, so you move me. Yeah, you move me. Here's how love was to me. I could look and not see. Going through the emotions, not knowing what they mean. And it scared me so much that I just would not budge. You might have stayed there forever if not for your touch. Out of myself and into the fire. Yeah, you burn me, burning with love and hope and desire, and you move me. See how you move me. You go whistling in the dark, making light of it, making light of it. I will follow with my heart, laughing all the way. Yeah, you move me. You got me dancing and you make me sing. Yeah, you move me. I take delight in every little thing, 'cause you move me. Oh, yeah, Thank you. You know, as I mentioned, I was raised in Alabama, and I grew up in northeast Alabama near Chattanooga, where we have what we laughingly refer to as mountains. They're not really mountains, but I live on one called Lookout Mountain, and I was raised there. Grew up there, finished high school, and about that time I suddenly realized kind of like where I was, so moved away and spent the better part of my life on the road, and but finally after many years I decided to move back, and so I told my wife's from New York, and she was really thrilled when I said, hey, we're moving to Alabama, because she had heard such great things about Alabama from all of her New York friends who seemed to know all about Alabama. And anyway, and she'd seen a lot of movies that portrayed Alabama in such a positive light. So she thought she was moving to my cousin Vinny or something, But it's not like that, of course. It's more like Forrest Gump, really. It's gonna be accurate. For me, though, it was a great thing, especially as a songwriter, because here I am returning, salmon-like, to my roots, and all these memories, and things that I guess repressed or whatever were coming back, and I was able to write songs about them, so it was good. And this is when every small town, and this is true all over the world, small towns are always the same, closely, and there's always a place where young folks hang out, right? Because you're bored out of your mind, and it's usually some place like the city dump or Dairy Queen or something. But we were actually kind of lucky because we had a canyon, at our disposal, and you can get lost in a canyon. That's a good thing. So this is called Little River Canyon. Little River Canyon, swimming with the snakes. Pretty green water's so cold it makes you ache, even on the hottest Alabama days. When the girls would lie on terry cloth and bake, so deep into that landscape we did not realize that we had been talking in accents all our lives, just a vague sense of the world passing us by, like out-of-state tags rolling down I-59. This song, it's just an echo. Whoa, this song, it's just a ripple from a stone that was tossed into the water long ago. At the height of adolescence, totally insane, with heads more full of hormones than brains, straightening out the curbs, flying down those hills. We were driving so fast, it's a wonder we weren't all killed. And the cars parked on the canyon rim any weekend night. You could hold your baby like a flotation device, bobbing to the surface, coming up for air. In a tangle of tongues and teeth and hair, the song, it's just an echo. Hey, it's a song. It's just a ripple from a stone that was tossed into the water long ago. Some left for college, some could only dream. I see them hanging around town, they're still wearing their high school rings. I avoid their faces when I come to town, 'Cause man, I still don't know which one of us has let the other down. Little River Canyon in a crazy quilt of trees. I'm looking at that smoky water choked with fallen leaves, falling like a million childish dreams, and just washed away like nothing in that frigid stream. This song, well, it's just an echo of the song. It's just a ripple from a stone that was tossed into the water long ago. So my friend a while ago, I was going to play some songs in the Admiral tuning. That's what they call it in the music books. He said, the what? Well, you know, the Ellis Paul tuning. Same thing. I learned this tuning from Elvis. Yeah, from Elvis. I learned this tuning from Elvis. I was channeling him. What you want to do? I can't even do Elvis. I can't even do Elvis except when I don't mean to do Elvis. Any rate, now I learned this from Ellis by way of Buddy Munlock, because Ellis had taught it to Buddy, so it's like a virus, I guess, or something. But it ended up with me, and I love it. It's a great tuning. I want to tell you guys a little story, if I could. There was a young lady who lived up in New England, way back in the early 19th century, and she lived what they call down east. Some of you from that part of the world know what that means. Yeah, Mainers, but everybody up there navigates toward or away from the water, right? Down east is on the water. And this young lady grew up on the bay, watching sailboats and ships coming and going. That was her whole life. That's all she'd ever known. And when she was about 16 years old, suddenly her family compelled her to take this ridiculously long journey and to leave behind everybody and everything she'd ever known. She was 16 years old, and they had her go all by herself away on this trip, leaving everybody behind. She traveled all the way down the length of the United States, and that was about half of the trip. Then she had to go overland, and this was during a time when there really weren't roads, at all. And the reason she did all this is her assignment was to meet and marry this strange man, this older man that she did not know, had never seen, never spoken to, didn't even know what he looked like, I guess. And I guess it sounds pretty harsh by our standards there. But I'm really glad she did that, because she's my ancestor. Farewell to Newport Town. Farewell, Rhode Island town. Just a maiden of 60. What do I know? I love your ocean spray, your dark waves of green and gray. Upon the rocks they break, is twice my age. He has a fine state, oh, so I'm told. Yankee clippers on the bay have come to take my heart away, for down the Charleston town on Carolina's coast, an old ragamuffin man made by my mother's hands, this and some odds and ends are all that I own. Bound for a marriage my father made to a man who is twice my age. He has a fine estate, oh, so I'm told. Far from the sea he lives, in the western wilderness, where the Alabama sun will burn me brown. Bound for a marriage my father made to a man who is twice my age. He has a fine state, oh, so I'm told. Thank you. This is a song Dana and I wrote a few years ago. And, you know, all musicians are required, all traveling musicians who write songs are required to write songs about, you know, how tough it is being on the road, you know, like it's a real job or something, you know. And, so we didn't want to be left out or anything. So we wrote this song. And Dana's from Missouri, so he had that outlaw thing going for him. So we decided to use the language of outlaws in describing our lives. It's called My Life of Crime. Well, I have been an outlaw all my grown-up life. Just ask my former in-laws, just ask my former wife. Living from a suitcase and standing in the rain. You can keep this house, baby, I will keep the change. Now, there have been some changes, I would testify. Still, it's just another chapter in my life of crime. In my life of crime. Well, I have held some people up. I have robbed the stage. With my trusty six string, I have made them pay. They smile and give me money. They smile and give me praise. I make out like a bandit, and then I steal away to a lonely hideout that no one can find, making plans for my next caper in my life of crime, in my life of crime. I chose this life much as it chose me. Oh, I know I'm an outlaw, but there is honor among thieves. Posters hanging on the wall, and I've stayed just out of reach of the long arm of the law of averages, of the law of fate. I know my days are numbered, the law must be obeyed. Though I stay 2 steps ahead, he's just 2 steps behind, making sure I never rest in my life of crime, in my life of crime. Thank you. When I started my alleged career, back in the 1980s, I had the thoroughly undeserved privilege of opening shows for Jesse Winchester and I don't mean 1 or 2, but I mean like for a whole year, all over the country. That was amazing. It was a great education for any songwriter, even me, you know. But I got to tell you, it was kind of wasted on me at the time because I was so young and just ignorant, you know, and just more even than now, you know. Excuse me, I didn't even know who he was. I didn't know who Jesse Winchester was. I thought he was Jesse Colin Young, you know. So I'd be like there going, hey man, play that Come On People Now song, you know. He didn't like that much. But Jesse's a great guy, and I'll tell you, I learned more from watching that guy play than anybody. This is one of his songs. Listen to you move your mouth, I bet you come from way down south. Please don't tell me, let me guess, you're from the town I love the best. Talk Memphis, wish you would talk Memphis. Sounds so good, talk Memphis. High on a bluff, I swear I can't get enough. Listen to you talk that stuff, talk Memphis. Let's discuss some barbecue, talk about the Tigers too. Every little sweet thing you say just turn me on like D.I. Talk Memphis, wish you would talk Memphis. Sounds so good, talk Memphis. High on a bluff, I swear I can't get it done. Listening to you talk that stuff, talk Memphis. Got some blue suede shoes, I bet you know West Memphis too. You cross that bridge on just 2 wheels, I bet you know how good that feels. Talk Memphis, wish you would talk Memphis. Sounds so good, talk Memphis. High on a bluff, I swear I can't get enough. Listen to you talk that stuff, talk Memphis. Wish you would talk Memphis. Sounds so good, talk Memphis. High on a bluff. I swear I can't get enough. Listen to you talk that stuff, talk Memphis. I recall when Elvis died, a lot of folks stopped and cried. I don't mind telling you, well, I did a little crying too. Talk Memphis, wish you would talk Memphis. Sounds so good, talk Memphis. High on a bluff, I swear I can't get enough. Listen to you talk that stuff, talk Memphis. Wish you would talk Memphis. Sounds so good, talk Memphis. High on a bluff, I swear I can't get enough. Listen to you talk that stuff, talk Memphis. Thank you. And I started out in Baltimore, and I was all over West Virginia, part of West Virginia. It was like 22 degrees that night. That was a month ago. And then I went to Texas. I was out there for a while. Then Colorado. This is a great place to end a tour, I'll tell you, because it's harder to get homesick in Colorado, I've found, than just about anywhere else. I want to tell you a little bit about Reverend Howard Finster. Now, I know some of y'all probably know who he is already, but if you don't, this is real cool, and you might want to go Google this guy because he's fascinating. Reverend Finster grew up in DeKalb County, Alabama. He's actually from Alabama. A lot of people think he's from Georgia, but he's not. And there are some subtle differences between Georgia and Alabama. And if you like, I could name one, for example. See, in Alabama, we have this fish that we love to eat. It's delicious. It's called a crappie. That's right. They're great. People catch them and eat them. Well, in Georgia, they have a similar fish, but theirs is called a crappie. And you see, in Alabama, we make a point of never eating anything that has the word crap in it. That's just, there's just little things like that. But anyway, so Howard grew up in DeKalb County, and way back in the 1920s, his family was very poor. His dad was a sharecropper, you know, and when Howard was in like the second grade or something, his father died suddenly, so he had to quit school and come home and help his family. So Howard didn't get a lot of education, you know, he didn't get much formal training. But nevertheless, he grew up to be a Baptist minister. Clearly, he belonged to a sect that did not require seminary degrees. And that worked out good for Howard. And he preached in all these churches all over DeKalb County. And then later, he moved across the state line over into Georgia. And he ended up in Somerville, Georgia. And when he got up into about his 60s, he started getting kind of depressed and frustrated. And as he tells it, you know, he would preach his sermons, you know, and then he'd run around to the door at the end of the service to shake everybody's hand, right? And he noticed that nobody would remember anything he had said. It's like nobody was paying attention at all. And it just made him feel like everything was just a waste, you know, like his life had just been kind of a joke. And it was around that time, out of nowhere, that Howard started having visions, okay? I don't think Baptist preachers are supposed to have visions. I don't think the dispensationalists like that, but nevertheless, he was having them. And the visions told him that the whole world was going to hear his sermons, right? But he wasn't going to preach them, he was going to paint them, okay? Now, Howard had never painted anything in his whole life, maybe a barn or something, you know. And but the vision said that doesn't matter. Just paint them on whatever you find around the yard, plywood, sheetrock, you know, tires, whatever, you know, and paint, and you are to paint 50,000 of them, okay? Well, here's the story. Before Howard died, he painted over 100,000 pieces. Those pieces are in the Metropolitan Museum, they're in the National Gallery, they're probably in the museum in Denver, they're in museums all over the world. One of them was the official poster for the '96 Olympics. You may have seen it, the Coke bottle with the faces, you know. Well, that's Reverend Finster. So I guess it just goes to show you there's always hope. So this is for Howard. This is called I've Got a Hope. Man is born to trouble all the days of his life, as the sparks fly upward from bonfires at night. They fill up the heavens with pinpoints of light. I've got a hope, I've got a hope, I've got a hope that is not in this world. Time it is turning like a plow in the field. It roots up the earth and what's hidden is revealed. Sowing the future while the past it is sealed. I've got a hope, I've got a hope, I've got a hope that is not in this world. Half of the battle is only with myself, while the other half, well, that's something I can't help. Lest I should stumble, I try not to forget that every hair is numbered, every footstep, every breath. And this life that I'm living, well, it will not end in death. I've got a hope, I've got a hope, and I've got a hope that is not in this world. I've got a hope that is not in this world. Thank you. Oh, my little lady, I am going to Alabama, going to Alabama. I'm going to Mobile, all along the bay. Ladies playing with their children, they're playing with their children on a lazy summer day. Ships are on the harbor, sitting on a sunset, sitting on a sunset like a watercolor picture. Life is mighty good in the year of 47. Why, it was just like heaven in the year of 48. Oh, my little league, I am going to Alabama, going to Alabama. I'm going to Mobile, all along the bay. Ladies playing with their children, playing with their children on a lazy summer day. Alabama, going to Mobile, leave you along the bay. Ladies playing with the children, playing with the children on a lazy summer day. Ain't it funny how we said in our time of leaving, in our time of leaving, we'd be coming back one day. And oh, ain't it funny now, in our time of grieving, what was really leaving was not me, but Mobile Bay. Oh, my little Lee, I am going to Alabama, going to Alabama, I am going to Mobile Lee, oh, along the bay. Ladies playing with their children, playing with their children on a lazy summer day. Thank you. Actually, though, I play it for you, but I want to dedicate to my host, who've been very good to me. And we're not just saying that because you're in charge of paying me and all that. Can't be bought or sold or faked, that kind of love. It always gives itself away. That kind of love is wiser than the wisest sage. Its innocence makes me ashamed till I'm not sure that I can take that kind of love. Pride and hatred cannot stand that kind of love. Greater love hath no man than that kind of love. It won't be kept unto itself. It spreads its charm, it casts its spell, till no one's safe this side of hell from that kind of love. Love rejected and ignored, held in chains behind closed doors, the stuff of legend and of song. And deep down, everybody longs for that kind of love. Oh, that kind of love. Some people never know that kind of love, though it only takes a child to show that kind of love. Widows smile and strong men weep, and little ones play at its feet. The deaf can hear and the blind can see that kind of love. Love triumphant, love on fire, love that humbles and inspires, love that does not hesitate, with no conditions, no restraints, that kind of love. Oh, that kind of love. How could anyone deny that kind of love when every heart is measured by that kind of love? Even stars fall from the sky, everything will fall in time except those things that cannot die. That kind of love, oh, may you be remembered by that kind of love. This one for John. It's called The Black Sheep Boy. Oh, the black sheep boy is a son of mine, and I love him for his wicked grin and the mischief in his eyes. And he would not harm a soul, no, he would not hurt a fly. It's just beyond his control to walk a straight line. He's a black sheep boy. He's a black sheep boy. Yeah. Oh, the black sheep boy, he strikes again, a delight to all the ladies and trouble for the men. He's bound to break some hearts, kiss the girls and make them cry. I just hope one of those hearts doesn't turn out to be mine. Oh, the black sheep boy. Oh, the black sheep boy. I can see that hurt that he tries to hide. Even when he laughs out loud, he blames himself inside. Can't stop his hands, make his feet be still. He tells himself he won't, but he knows he always will be the black sheep boy. Curly-headed black sheep boy, yeah. Skipping out my door, 'cause the black sheep boy, and whichever way he runs, he's gonna make a lot of noise. And I'm startled by the silence the minute that he's gone. And I pray for his protection and leave the porch light on for my black sheep boy. For my black sheep boy, yeah. Oh, the black sheep boy, curly-headed black sheep boy. Oh, the black sheep boy. Oh, the black sheep boy, curly-headed black sheep boy. Oh. Thank you. You guys got a little voice in you that just wants you to do the worst possible thing at the worst possible time, always. Like you visit the Grand Canyon, this is beautiful, and that little voice is going, you can fly. Start flapping your arms right now, you can fly. I was driving through a little town of Canton, Texas last week. You know it. Oh yes, that was. No, I didn't, but interesting you should say that, because as I was driving by the courthouse, I noticed on the steps they had every law enforcement personnel from the entire county. It was their own steps for their annual picture, you know? And I'm like kind of easing by in traffic, you know, like a million cops are like right there. And for some reason, that evil little voice was, wanted me to yell out, "Oh my God, he's got a gun!" And, like right at the second they snapped the picture, right? Because then they'd all be going like, that'd make a great picture, I think. But I didn't do that. Good thing too. Let's see. Oh, okay. Well, when I was in Texas, I got to visit my daughter. My daughter Grace is she's a student down in Austin, and I am very, very proud of her. She got there all by herself, just her own hard work and no social life. And but she started a band, and they played their first real gig last night, so that was a big deal. But this is a song I wrote for Grace when she was like 8 years old. First bike, pigtails fly, petals whirl, careful, there she goes, my little girl. School bus, bye-bye, Dad, and hello, world. Fragile, handle with care, my little girl. First dance, junior high, round and round she twirls. Careful whose hand you hold, my little girl. World, I wonder why you're turning so fast. These moments won't last. One by one they come, they're gone. No wonder I try to hold on. White dress, veil of lace, string of pearls. Young man, don't forget she's my little girl. Careful, there she goes, my little girl. Thank you. I stutter when I try to speak the language of life. I want to shout out loud, but I just cry inside. Sometimes I feel so holy, sometimes so absurd. So who am I to try and put that into words? I am nothing, but the angels sometimes whisper in my ear. Yeah, they tell me things and then they disappear. Though I am nothing, I sometimes like to make believe I hear. There you go. I stumble when I try to walk the straight and narrow. I've heard it said God's eye is on the lowly sparrow, who in spite of everything will sing for all he's worth. You know, sometimes I feel exactly like that bird. I am nothing, but the angels sometimes whisper in my ear. Yeah, they tell me things and then they disappear. Though I am nothing, I sometimes like to make believe I hear. I am nothing. I am nothing. I am nothing. Thank you. I have a friend who lives in Montecito, California. Beautiful place. You got to go there if you're ever near. It's near Los Gatos, which is where all our Netflix come from. It's where we Google. But Montecito is this. It's a mountain. It's where Steinbeck wrote all his books. This song always makes me think of that Dust Bowl thing. It's a mighty rough road my poor hands have hold. My poor feet have traveled a dusty road. Out of your dust bowl and westward we rode. Your desert was hot and your mountains was cold. Well, I worked in your orchards of peaches and prunes. I slept on the ground by the light of the moon. On the edge of your city, you've seen us and them. We come with the dust and are gone with the wind. California, Arizona, make all your crops. There's north up to Oregon to gather your hops. Dig the beets from your ground, cut the grapes from your vines, just to set on your table your bright sparkling wine. Green pastures are plenty from dry desert ground. From the We'll work in this fight, we'll fight till we win. Well, it's always we ramble this river and I. All along the green valley I will work it till I die. My land with my life I'll defend if need be. For my pastures of plenty must always be free. If need be. For my pastures of plenty must always be free. Thank you. I started to write this about Flannery O'Connor. I love Flannery O'Connor, but I just found her very difficult to put into words. She'd done such a good job herself already. It seemed a little unnecessary. But I was left with a lot of imagery of creepy old southern Georgia towns. South Georgia, it's really cool, but South Georgia is like, it's romantic and creepy, okay? It has that quality, Savannah especially, and other towns, you know, like Charleston, New Orleans, you know, it's like you got the Spanish moss, you know, and, you know, moon in the trees, and it's quite an image. I lived in Atlanta for 10 years, and we had stuff hanging in the trees, but that was not Spanish moss, that was toilet paper. Not as romantic. At any rate, this is called Georgia Moon. Neve Annabella mansions. Ancient floorboards, got it. Okay. John, you're infectious. I didn't know amnesia could be caught from another person, but Neve Annabella mansions where ancient floorboards sag, and Spanish moss sways gently as a tattered rebel flag. Strolling past the wrought iron fences tipped with rusty spikes, I felt the softness of your hand. You were beautiful that night. Where we walked in long shadows long after it was dark, took our shoes off by the fountains down at the city park. Your flowered dress was clinging, your hair was stringy wet, and we kissed beneath the white cascade. I never will forget the Georgia moon hanging down like a tear from God's own eye, laying low in the bottom of the sky, sneaking on me like a thief in the night. Oh, every time it makes me think of you. Long ago beneath the Georgia moon, in the Confederate cemetery, a sentry stood on high, expressionless despite a fusillade of fireflies. On the graves of our grandfathers, where the grass is long and cool, it was there we laid our blankets down just like a flag of truce. On your mother's wide veranda, we said our last goodbye. You were off to college by the red dawn's early light. Your memory still shines on me, part heaven, part hell. Oh, to reach for the roses, we must feel the thorns as well. And the Georgia moon is headed down like a tear from God's own eye, laying low at the bottom of the sky, sneaking up on me like a thief in the night. Yeah, and every time it makes me think of you. Long ago beneath the Georgia moon, long ago beneath the Georgia moon. Thank you. Thank you. This is based on a well-known string of children's books, and I won't say which ones, but there is a lion and a witch involved. Walking blind through the wardrobe and into the night, the street lamp shines on a winter scene frozen in time. Something is drawing you that can melt all the ice and the glue and will set the whole world right. There's a flame burning steady and bright in the lion's eye, in the lion's eye. To see his face, catch a glimpse of the golden mane, is never safe, but you know he's good just the same. You can't help but look away from the strength of his gaze, burning through what is frozen in your soul. Feel the streams begin to flow in the lion's eye, in the lion's eye. Deeper magic from long before. At the sound of his roar, death itself will be working backwards now, turning everything around in the lion's eye, in the lion's eye, in the lion's eye, oh, in the lion's eye. But this song, man, it's called The Showman's Life. Well, the showman's life is a smoky bar. It's a fever chase of a tiny star. It's a motel room, oh, and a lonely wife. Oh, that's all it is to the showman's life. Nobody told me about this part. No, he told me all about those pretty girls and the wine, yeah, and the money and the good times. There was no mention of all the wear and tear to an old honky-tonker's heart. Oh, I should have known it. Nobody told me about this part. Well, a boy will dream as dreamers do of a great wide way until the dream comes true. But it's a phony smile in a colored light. Oh, that's all it is to the showman's life. Nobody told me about this part. No, they just told me all about those pretty girls and the wine, oh, and the money, and the good times. There was no mention of all this wear and tear to an old honky-tonker's heart. I should have known it. Nobody told me about this part. Jesse Winchester. Thank you. When I was a kid, my dad would bring the family every year to Nashville, and we'd see the Grand Ole Opry. And for real, in the Ryman, you know, like before they had, you know, an amusement park attached to it. That was amusement enough, believe me. And I remember they did those country shows, and then at the end they'd get everybody out and they'd all do a gospel number. You know, it was always kind of nice, I thought. And so this is a song. It's the only thing I've ever written like this. I wrote it with Jonelle Mosser. He's a wonderful singer. If you ever get a chance to hear a great blues singer. She's like, let's write a gospel song. All right. So we did this one. And my friend Tom Kimmel recorded this too. He did a great cover. But anyway, I'll just do that for you. And thank you guys again. Don't have to cry anymore. Don't have to worry about what's in store. Walk that road exhausted and poor. Don't have to cry anymore. Don't have to know it all. Don't have to be so proud, stand so tall. climb that mountain, oh, little fall. Well, I don't have to know it all. You did that for me. Oh, you did that for me. You wore the chains so I could be free. Yeah, yeah. You did that for me. Don't have to be ashamed. Don't have to hang my head, shoulder the blame, wondering if my life has been in vain. Oh, I don't have to be ashamed. You did that for me. Yeah, you did that for me. You wore the chain so I could be free. Yeah, yeah. You did that for me. Man of sorrows, well acquainted with grief, dragged to the city dump, spread eagled on a crossbeam, propped up like a scarecrow, nailed like a thief, there for the world to see. You did that for me. Oh, you did that for me. Oh, you wore the chains so I could be free. Yeah, yeah. You did that for me. Oh, you did that for me. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.